Good morning. My name is Devalia, and I'm going to run through some of the basic, uh, bare bone abilities and the talent spec and things like that I use on my Holy Priest. So let's get started. At first glance of looking at the buttons, you may or may not know exactly what they do, what they are, that sort of thing. I'm going to go through and just kind of touch base on each one that I have on my hotbars. Okay, so the first ability we have here is Purify, and that is a dispelling ability that's useful for diseases and magical effects. And then we have Binding Heal, which is a heal towards it's a small heal. It's usually good to it's not mana efficient, but it's usually good to spam it once or twice just to get a little bit of healing back on let's say your tank or yourself, or a DPS member and yourself. It works pretty good in 5-man. Essentially what I use it for is to refresh my renew on both me and the tank, so that way I don't have to cast 2 renews, which is more cost effective than doing that. The next ability is Prayer of Mending, which you want to get that out there before a pull, and you want to always keep it up. The next ability is Flash Heal. This ability doesn't do mana. It's not mana efficient. By spamming it, you will drain your mana pool and you will be out of mana. The upside to it is that it gets free procs by a talent that I have, and I'll explain that in a sec. Like I said, the downside is that it drains your mana, but it's good in case you need to really quickly heal up someone. The next heal is just regular, plain old heal. It's a slow heal, it's mana efficient, but again, it's slow, so you have to somewhat preemptively use it ahead of time before a lot of damage is incurred. Renew, which I real quickly went ahead and talked about a second ago, but I keep in a 5-man, I keep most of the people with Renew. I keep that on them. In a raid, it's less spammed, but it's still good to have that heal over time up, especially in a damage phase where a lot of things are going on, a lot of people are getting hit. The next ability I have is Power Word Shield, which is more of a 5-man thing as well. I pop that on a tank before they run in, and it helps alleviate some of the damage that they are going to take. Because obviously, they're the tank, they take damage. Gift of the Naru is my next ability. That's not a priest ability, that's your Draenei ability. However, it is a very useful healing spell in this expansion of what I've seen thus far. It's good if your tank, let's say, is at 30%, so you would pop, in somewhat of a combination, you would pop your Power Word Shield, your Gift of the Naru, and then you would carry on with whatever regular rotation you have. It gives you that extra cushion because you know that they're being healed over time, so they're getting some of their health back while you're continuously trying to heal them back up. My next word is Holy Word Chastis. That actually changes depending on your chakra stance that you have. Stance, I use that word loosely. I'll explain that in more detail here in a bit. Fade is my next ability, and Fade will not only reduce threat in case you mess up, or you pop a healing spell before the tank has aggro, something like that, or you pull something, whatever. Fade will actually, due to some of the glyphs, it'll actually reduce some of your damage taken, and it's a useful, pop it here or there, 30-second, just basically cooldown, so that way you take less damage. In fights where there's a lot of AoE damage going out, it's quite useful to pop this, almost, if not at the time that it's happening, and it'll stop some of the damage on you, thus less healing you have to do to yourself. The next one is Circle of Healing. It's been drastically cut since Mista Pandaria. However, I gotta say, it's still quite a useful ability. Right now, it's healing for about 5 to 10% of people's maximum hit points, although it has a 12-second cooldown. So, it's one of those abilities where if everybody's low on health, and not drastically low, but like around 80% or 70%, it's probably a good time to pop it and continue doing whatever you were going to do regularly. The next ability is Halo that I have chosen. Out of all the tier talents that Halo falls under, I personally like Halo, although none of them really appeal to me as in terms of healing output. They feel weak. So it's another AoE heal that I've got, but at the same time, it really doesn't heal all that much. So it's one of those things, I put it out there. I have a different purpose for it, and I'll explain that here in a sec. My next branch, or set of abilities that I have, are more, they're less healing oriented, I suppose, and they're more cooldowns and practical abilities that you would use on the fly. I'll get into an advanced, I use that word loosely as well, an advanced ability category here in a sec. Let's go over the talents so that I can clear that out of the way. Alright, so we have Desperate Prayer, which, as you can see, it's also down here in my advanced quote-unquote section. It gives you 22% of your hit points back, so it's quite useful if you just want to get it out there and heal yourself up. It's also useful if you've taken a lot of damage and you can't quite get to yourself, so you just pop that ability and carry on. Maybe hit a renew on yourself or something, just to kind of keep you topped up. The next bracket is essentially a movement speed bracket. Gets you out of things, that sort of stuff. I personally, I don't like the 3 charges that Angelic Feather gives you, but I find it something that you can set these feathers around the areas. You won't aggro by setting them down, so you don't have to worry about pulling. And you can pop these feathers in certain spots, so that way somebody running along, if they've got a fixation or something on them, they can pick up one of the feathers and get out of whatever they need to ahead of time. You can also stop pushing that button. You can also put up the feather and with one of your other charges, store it. If you see somebody running along and they're, again, fixated or something like that, you can actually drop the feather right in front of them or practically near them, and they'll get the speed boost to be able to take off and get out of whatever danger that they're in. The next ability, or talent I should say, that I have is Surge of Light. Whenever you're healing or smite, you're not going to be smiting too much as a Holy Priest, unless you're bored or, you know, you just throw out some extra damage. But your healing spells will give you an 8% chance to make your flash heal an instant cast and cost no mana. Now, 8% doesn't seem like much, but this is one of those abilities that pops all the time. So you want to be consistently using it as it comes up, so that way you're getting that big bang out of flash heal that it gives you, but it's also instant and costs you no mana, so it's perfectly mana efficient, obviously. The downside is that it can only hold 2 charges, and you'll see these, I don't know if I can get it to come on the screen. Let's see here. It might not pop. I assure you that in a regular raid or an instance it pops a tremendous number of times, but because I'm by myself it's probably not going to pop. Well, anyway, I don't want to waste any more time trying to get it to work, you know. But anyway, so when it does pop, you'll see these 2 little half circles on each side of your character. Now, if you have 1 circle, you can store that, 1 half a loop, whatever, 1 charge, you can store that, and then wait until like a spike of damage or something to use it. If you have 2 charges, it's okay to store 2 charges, but it's not recommended. Since the maximum is 2, if it procs again, you will not get a 3rd charge for that proc. So you're essentially wasting your extra procs that come after the 2nd. The next talent tree, the level 61, is basically a waste. I have taken Dominant Mind because I've always used that ability ever since I started playing, so it's just my go-to talent. Psychic Scream, you really don't want to have people be fearing into other people. Bad idea, especially since you have to heal through it. Void Tendrils, it's okay, but there's other classes in the game that can whip these things out very easily, so I don't suggest taking that either. But it's entirely up to your discretion. Level 75 talents. I have Twist of Fate here because I've noticed that a lot of people drop below health quite easily. So by doing this, you get an extra boost in your healing, and you can start bringing people back up rather quickly. Power Infusion is a really great ability. I just don't like the fact that it's another button that I have to push versus the passive that Twist of Fate offers. And Divine Insight, from the community, I haven't actually used it. Forums and stuff will tell you that it's not quite as good as the other 2, and it's kind of not worth taking unless it fits your playstyle, and then by all means go for it. The next little branch here, the level 90 branch, is a hit or miss. All these abilities are kind of backseated, I guess. They're not really your main abilities. You're not going to be using them very often, which is kind of sad because it is level 90. You would think that these would be pretty buff talents. The last expansion they were. This expansion they happen to be kind of nerfed due to the healing style and due to the fact that we are no longer trying to heal AoE, but we're trying to heal single target and triage people. So these abilities have kind of gotten a nerf. nerf. I use that. It's another one of those loosely used words. I picked Halo because I like I just like the graphic, but I also like knowing where I usually stand and then spamming it out and knowing that it's going to hit from where I am. Basically everyone that's in range. And it has a dedicated pattern. Once you figure out how far it goes out or where people are from you, that sort of thing, you can always maximize the healing. Cascade, it's really good, but it's not something that I like to use. It branches off, sends out to one person, and then that one person branches two, and then they hit two people, and then that two branch out into four, and they hit people. And by doing this, it heals everybody up. It can never heal the same target twice. It's an all-right ability. It's great for raids. 5-man, not so much. I haven't found the use for it. And lastly, the level 100 talents. Oh man, did priests? They don't seem to have the talents that I wish they did. But anyway, Prayer of Mending is probably one of the best talents that you can pick. Clarity of Purpose is okay. Essentially what that does is reduces your Prayer of Healing, and it cuts that down and also makes the healing... It takes Prayer of Healing and turns it into Clarity of Purpose. And then it cuts the mana down, and it allows you to heal more efficiently with that ability. But I don't personally like Prayer of Healing. Sorry guys, not that useful in this expansion. So I've gone with Words of Mending, which is another Prayer of Mending that will pop every 10 heals that you do. Quite useful. It should be noted that Gift of Naru doesn't trigger it, and Renew, I believe, does. Yes, for confirmation purposes, right here. So by spamming your Renew on people, you're essentially getting one of the 10 counters that you need. And on the 10th counter, it will cast another Prayer Mending for free. Okay, so let's go over the glyphs here that I have chosen. I have chosen Glyph of Renew, which gives your Renew 25% better healing, but it reduces the duration by 3 seconds. By reducing the duration of Renew, you're cutting the times and having to essentially renew people quite quickly. However, due to Draenor, they have a perk that allows you to have 3 seconds buffed to your Renew just by being a Holy Priest. So it takes away from the reduction and makes up for it with your perk. And then it heals just like it normally would, only better. It's kind of one of those no-brainer talents that I've chosen. The next one is Glyph of Deep Wells. Adds 2 charges to your light well. There are other talents that can replace this one quite quickly, quite easily. I've always been a fan of the light well. Just my own personal opinion. And then lastly, I have Glyph of the Power Word Shield, which allows 20% of the absorbed shield to be converted into healing. Why is this useful? This is useful because it gives you a proc to your 10 stacks that you need for your talent, because it counts as a heal. So during 5-man fights, you can continuously, since you're the only healer, continuously keep casting Power Word Shield on the tank to absorb damage, to prevent having to heal him, because he's absorbing the damage. And it's quite a decent absorption. You're giving him an extra little heal underneath that, so if he wasn't topped off, he might be. And like I said, you're also getting one of those token props, counters, whatever you want to call them, towards your 10 that you need to fire off a free Prayer of Mending. So. And then the center ones here, the center talents, are basically just cosmetic. Look like a Valkyrie when you die as a Spirit of Redemption. You get little wings on your back when you heal anybody. And then when you're resurrecting somebody, reviving them, this big beam of light appears over the top of them, so that the other players in your raid know that you're rezzing. This used to be useful. It's kind of not so useful anymore due to mass res, but at any rate, it's still kind of cool. Okay, so the last little thing, and I'll go over this relatively quickly. The last little bit here is Massive Spell, which comes in handy, but it's extremely non-cost efficient. There we go. Sorry. Use it at your own discretion. It's a fast cast. It's half a second. But again, it's extremely high cost. So you have to be careful when you use it and how many times you use it. Leap of Faith. Most people out there go, Leap of Faith, oh god, I hate it. I hate the whole BS that goes with it. Well, Leap of Faith isn't bad. There's some fights now that knock you off from platforms. You can Leap of Faith somebody to get them back onto the platform, get them back into a battle. Leap of Faith can actually get people out of fire. There's a glyph that allows you to Leap of Faith to people. So that's also useful, because if you're standing on something bad, instead of trolling them by pulling them to you, breaking their casting, you can actually bounce to them, be out of the way, and then, pop a feather or whatever, and get to safety. So it's kind of a useful ability. One of my more favorite, actually. Levitate, not all that useful, but I do have it on my bar because there are some fights that throw you in the air, and being able to levitate allows you to break those air mechanics. As you're free falling back to the ground, you can cast Levitate on yourself, and then you can stop the damage from the high falls. Also running around normally, if you don't have the garrison building, it's quite helpful. You're on a mountain, you want to get over somewhere, you just levitate, free float over there. No big deal. Next ability, Fear Ward. It hasn't been useful in the last expansion, but in this one it's starting to. I'm not sure if it's going to continue to be useful. I know in Wrath of the Lich King it was quite useful. There's certain mobs in the blood mines that will actually cause you to fear. You can put this on a tank to stop that from happening. You can put it on yourself to stop that from happening. It's relatively useful. I've used it quite a bit, to be honest. Dispel Magic removes one magic effect on an enemy. Not so useful. Not many people are buff. Not many people get buffs, from what I've seen. Again, this is my personal experience. There was a time it was useful. it may remain to be useful in this expansion. We'll have to see as the upcoming days go on. Angelic Feather, one of the tier talents. Again, not the best one that you can choose. I think Body and Soul is. But this one allows you to place 3 before a battle. 3 feathers before a battle. And allows you to put them essentially anywhere without aggroing. And so you can preemptively get them out there so that people have the buffs if they need them. I've made a macro to be able to change between 2 chakra stances that I'll talk about here in just a second. That has come in handy a couple times. Takes a little bit to get used to. We have Guardian Spirit, which is probably the most useful ability a priest has, a holy priest has. You pop this on somebody right before they're gonna die, and bam, they're back up again. Quite useful for mess ups such as big pulls, or the tank just taking too much damage, can't heal them through it. They come back with 40% health. They come back with most of the healing spells already on them. They don't actually lose their aggro because they don't actually die. It's more like they hit a 0.5% of health and then they're restored. So you can think of it that way. They never actually die. You can be used while you're stunned, which is tremendously useful. Desperate Prayer, that's a big heal to yourself, 22% of your health. Extremely useful if you need to get yourself back up. You're at 80%, bam, pop that, you're back up, ready to go. No need to try to renew yourself, no need to waste mana, just pop it and go. Your next ability, Divine Heim. So nerfed since last expansion. It's still an okay ability, gives everybody some health. I usually pop it when everybody's around 50% to kind of jump their bars back up to 60, maybe 70, And then lastly, we have the Lightwell, which is an ability you use prior to entering a fight. So much like the feathers, you drop a Lightwell and you get ready to start your fight. It'll heal anybody under 50% health. Not very much, but it gives you free healing. Because by the time you drop Lightwell with the 6,000 mana, by the time somebody pulls, your health or your mana bar is back up to full. Just preemptively, throw it out there, get it ready to go before a fight. Be sure that it's not on cooldown when you come up to bosses, because it's quite helpful in a boss fight. You want to center it. It doesn't aggro, much like everything that you have. You want to center it in the room so that way anybody near it will get healed versus being too far out of the range. And lastly, you have your Power Word Fortitude, your hour-long stamina buff. Quite useful because that also buffs your Gift of the Naru, and it also buffs your Desperate Prayer indirectly because you have a higher health bar. So these abilities are going to get a benefit from your total health being higher. Lastly is Resurrection, which brings somebody back from the dead. Cannot be used in combat. It's not a battle res, but hey. Alright. So, pretty much covers, I think, everything that I'm going to talk about. The rest of the abilities are DPS stuff. Not useful in fights. There's not too much undead, so you can't really shackle them. You can't CC them. Crowd control. It holds one undead in place so that you can pull the group away from him. Great on a melee undead. But again, there's not very many undead in the game, so it's kind of sad, really. Nice. The last thing before we go, the chakra stances. Now, we have Holy Word Chastity, which is the default chakra ability. This will change into one of 3 abilities depending on what chakra that you are currently in. Chakra Chastity, obviously change it to Chastity, which is a stun and a DPS ability with a cooldown. Not so useful for healing. So we can come over to Sanctuary, which gives us the Holy Word Sanctuary. It gives us a ground heal. This isn't a very useful AoE heal at all. I'm sure Healing Rain by a Shaman or a Druid's Efflorescent is a better ability. This is one of those things that you put out there with Lightwell. You put Lightwell out there in the center of the arena, and then you put, you put this out there next to the boss so that the tank gets some healing. Or you can put it like where everybody's gonna be grouped up, and you do this pre-fight. You do this like the second before the fight starts, and then you have that extra free healing out there. Again, it doesn't really do that much, so you want to get it out there right before the pull. And then, because I have the macro to be able to change stances, I wait till the cooldown's off, and I pop back into Serenity, or the yellow one. Yellow. Well, Serenity is a big bang heal. It's cheap. It's instant. The downside is it has a 10-second cooldown, which is not really anything to worry about. And it increases the critical strike of, or critical effect of all your healing spells on that target. So, Renew will actually heal for higher amounts. Your basic direct heals will heal for higher amounts. It also, by being in the stance, when you're healing, Renew will actually, your direct heals, so like Flash Heal or Greater Heal, will actually renew your Renew. So what that means is that you will not have to recast Renew as long as you heal the target with a direct heal, one of those 2 abilities, or Holy Word Serenity, before the Renew falls off. And I think that covers this priest guide. This is my first guide, so if it's a little slow or a little sketchy, just kind of try to bear with it. Thank you all, and I hope to see you around.